Okay, super. Thank you very much. Okay, so it's a really great honour to be here and introducing this session this afternoon. My name is Jane Moore. I'm the Pro-Vice Chancellor and Dean of Education here at Edge Hill. And I'd like to, before I say a little bit more about my role, I'd like to begin by really warmly thanking the alumni taking part today. It's really generous of you to give up your time and to support the university and the student community in this way. And I'm so looking forward to hearing more about you and what you have to say during the event. So my Pro-Vice Chancellor remit for Equality, Diversity and Inclusion is a whole institution one. And it's obviously quite a sort of a daunting remit, but it's one that I'm really, really proud and pleased to be associated with. Edge Hill as an institution, of course, has got quite a long and distinguished history, I think, in championing certainly the principles of, if you think about in relation to gender, so as a non-denominational institution offering higher education opportunities to women. And certainly what we hope is that through our equality, diversity and inclusion work moving onwards, that we do justice to that heritage, but also take it forward into whole new realms. So we do have a new EDI strategy that was developed last year and then has been approved at institutional level, and a newly constituted steering group that I chair. And we're really conscious of the scope and range of the remit and the responsibility of it and its importance to everyone. So our aim is simple, that we want to diversify our Edge Hill community, that all people, regardless of all characteristics, feel welcome, nurtured, supported and able to be their full authentic selves. And we want to hold true to that, to the ambitions of and aspirations of that aim. Coming on specifically to questions of race, our celebrations of Black History Month this year, I think, have been a bit of a step change in our recognition of that event, and they've featured a really wide range of activities and personalities, some very well known, some less well known, from externally to the university, but also featuring lots of staff and students too. Again, and mirroring our wider EDI objectives, our aim is to fully support and celebrate our Black community and attract much higher numbers of Black students, as well as Asian and minority ethnic students as well, and to really make this a place where people feel that they can be recognised at home and can achieve everything they want to achieve. Events like this one are a really important way of recognising the full reach of the Edge Hill community, of which the alumni are a really valued contingent. And it's so vital for students to see some of the possibilities of after their time at Edge Hill and to hear and see role models for that. So without further ado, then I'm going to pass on to the more important part of this event, pass back to Alex to introduce what's happening next. And as I say, again, thank you so much to those taking part today. Thank you.
Thanks very much, Jane. Yeah, so we're here tonight for the Diverse Voices Minority Ethnic Alumni Panel. And we've got three great guests with us tonight, alumni. So as Jane said, thank you very much for excuse me, giving it the time to be here. So yeah, this event has come from, we have a student advisory panel at Edge Hill, and we approached this panel and asked, what would you like to see from the Edge Hill careers team? And what overwhelmingly came back was to be heard, to be seen, to see people that are like us, and to hear about the journeys that they went on after university. And so we can see ourselves represented. So that was the idea behind this event, and we're really proud to be doing it as part of the Black History Month celebrations here at the university. During the thing, thank you, Nick. I didn't realise the chat wasn't working, so feel free to join in the chat if you have any specific panelist questions, or someone says something, if it piques a question in your mind, please do drop it in there. We'll go at the end of each guest talking, we'll ask those questions if we have time to go back to them. Otherwise, if you did submit a question in advance of the session, at the very end, after everyone's had their sections, we'll go back and we'll go through some of these questions. Thank you if you did submit one in advance. As said earlier, this is being recorded, so we'll circulate it after to all those that were booked on. Otherwise, we've got some resources that we'll talk about at the end as well. We'll also include those in the email. Yeah, I don't think you'll be able to enable your cameras or your microphones with the permissions we gave, but panelists, if you could, yeah, turn your camera and microphone off when you're not presenting, and then when we introduce you, if you could put them back on. I believe that is everything. Did I miss anything out, Nick? Are we good? I think we're good.
Oh, good. Thanks, Alex.
Good. Thank you very much. So, I guess I'll briefly introduce myself and Nick as well before we go on. So I'm Alex here from the Edge Hill Careers team. I'm an employment advisor with the team. And Nick.
Hi, everyone. Well, hopefully I popped up.
Yeah.
Great to you all to attend. Thank you for coming along.
Great. And Nick's a careers advisor here in the team. So yeah, we'll go a bit into what Edge Hill Careers team can help with at the end. Yeah, we're always here to help if you need us. So firstly, I'd like to introduce Ngunan Adamu. Thank you very much for joining us tonight, Ngunan. So I've got a little bit of a spiel. I won't take any of your thunder, but Ngunan studied here at the PGCE in post-compulsory education and training back in 2013. And is currently presenter of Upfront, a Black magazine show on BBC Radio Merseyside, and an entrepreneur running iWoman, a global peer-to-peer organisation built by women for women. So fantastic you could be here. Thanks so much.
Thank you. So I'm hoping everyone can hear me okay. I'm going to put my 10-minute timer on because I can talk a lot, so at least then I know that I'm running according to schedule. So as Alex said, I graduated back in 2013, and my career path might be slightly different to some. When I signed up for my PGCE, I was actually already working at the BBC. So I'd been at the BBC for I think around 9-10 years, and I knew I wanted to start my own business. I wanted to start my own my academy, which is iWoman Academy, CIC. But I wanted to make sure that I wasn't doing this half-heartedly, and that's the reason why I decided to go to Edge Hill. And the funny thing is, so many people say, "No, why didn't you try this university and that university?" But for me, I knew that Edge Hill was one of the best when it came to education. So that's why I decided to apply and get onto the course for Edge Hill. And what I loved about that course was that it was so strict, but it set me up it set me up completely to what I needed to run an academy for women. So I'm an academy. It's an academy based only for women over the age of 19, but using radio as a wellbeing tool. So after I left, I still stayed at the BBC, but went part-time to start iWoman and started my course. And I also joined, I applied and joined the School of Social Entrepreneurs. So the reason why I like to tell that story is because, when you go to university, you just don't know where your qualification is going to take you. And even if you've got, it might not be the straightforward route, but there's other avenues that you can take, when you've got a degree. So for me, or a postgrad. So for me, I knew that I needed that degree to start my academy. But the funny thing about that was, once I started my academy and I was, training women in radio and doing all these amazing things, the BBC World Service then found out that I was doing this academy. And they had they've been given funding to train journalists across Africa and Asia, and they asked me if I wanted to be one of their trainers. And funny enough, I was like, are you sure they're going to understand the Scouse accent, in different parts of Africa and Asia? And they were like, listen, you're fine, as long as they can understand you, then that's fine. But obviously, when you're Scouse and you get excited, you can talk a lot faster. So all I did was slow it down by stage. I kept the accent the same. And that was interesting because looking back now, I realise that if I wouldn't have got my PGCE and started my academy, there is no way I would have been traveling the world training, journalists in different parts of Africa and Asia. So what they loved about that was that, I'd had formal training to teach, but also I knew how to put together a session plan. I knew I was involved in teaching. I understood activities and interaction. Understood objectives and aims, all those types of stuff. So so that actually, that was the biggest shocker for me. Was never in a million years would I have thought that my qualification in my PGCE would take me to Africa and Asia for the BBC. So I was fortunate enough to go to places like Senegal, Bangladesh, India, Lagos, Nigeria, Kenya. I've trained journalists from Ethiopia, Rwanda, Eritrea, Somaliland, Mauritius. It's been absolutely amazing. And I think what I've loved about that is that, number one, they do understand me, but also because I think I'm actually one of the only trainers, stroke journalists who has a PGCE on my team. My teaching style was completely different because I understood teaching techniques. So because of that, I got booked to go to quite a few places. So I was lucky enough to go to travel every 2 months before COVID. So for 3-4 years, every 2 to 3 months, I was just, I was traveling. So for me, it's, really taking those qualifications and saying, all right, then what else can I do with it? I still have iWoman Academy, which is going really well, really strong. But off the back of that, now a lot of my work is, although I am, even though I am still on the radio presenting my Black Magazine show every Monday, and so that's every Monday 7 till 9 p.m. A lot of my work, especially during lockdown, was virtual training. So I was training women in different parts of the world, but virtually as well. So that was fantastic. So it really opened up like doors that I never thought that it would open. And lockdown for me has been an absolute blessing, because it's allowed me to use my qualifications to be able to do that. So I've got a degree in journalism and I also have my PGCE. So all I've done really is marry them together and look at the different opportunities that I've been able to actually achieve with it. So it's been an absolute journey, I would say. And the funny thing is I've told other journalists and people in the media industry to think about getting a second qualification, or to even think about getting a PGCE, because like I said, it opened up so many doors for me. And I know not everyone listening has got a PGCE and are doing other things, but I always say, if you're passionate about something or you're a bit of a geek for something, always use that as something that makes you stand out and makes you different. So for me, it's definitely working with women, young people, it's music. I'm a big, if you love Marvel, I'm a big Marvel fan as well. Absolutely love Marvel. And I'm a massive LFC fan as well. So I was lucky enough to do a fantastic piece for BBC Sports around what does Trent, who plays for LFC, what he means to the city. So for me, everything that I've done has actually just married itself together. But like I said, my journey is probably different to most people, whereas I was already in employment and I decided to take a step back. So from working full time for 10 years, I went part-time, went back to university to teach, to do my teaching, and then I was teaching as well at Salford City College because I needed to understand how media worked, but also I needed to understand adult education as well. So it really did help me in so many ways. And the university, I'm still in touch with a lot of people from Edge Hill University who have been able to lend a hand, but also give advice. So I always say, always use the alumni if you're in any other, if you need support in terms of career paths as well. And I'm always at hand as well. So if you're thinking about trying something different or, going into entrepreneurship, I'll say, this is what I'm here for, because a lot of people before COVID didn't really take entrepreneurship that seriously. But actually, if I wasn't an entrepreneur, I don't think I would have survived during COVID at all, because, like I said, I was only working part-time, and a lot of the work that I was doing was virtual. So I was still working virtually. And that's because I would say I had an entrepreneurial mindset to use my qualifications and say, right, then what can I do with this? How am I going to also monetize it? And, where else can I reach? And what the pandemic did was actually show me that the world is not as small. I mean, it's not as big as what we think it is. We can do everything virtually as well. So whatever qualifications you've got, definitely see how you can take that entrepreneurial mindset and turn it into something else. As well as, I'm one of the fortunate ones. I'm able to still work part-time, doing a job that I love. As you can tell, I love to talk. But also I'm able to do things online as well. So I think that's my 10 minutes up. Yeah.
Thanks very much. Well timed. My timer had just gone off as well. It sounds like you've landed in some very fantastic opportunities. It was really interesting to hear about. I just had a couple of questions myself. So you said you went part-time at BBC when you did your PGCE. How did you find juggling that amongst while working part-time? Was it a stressful?
It was. I'm not going to lie, it wasn't easy, and I say this all the time, but it was a risk. It was a risk that I was willing to take. And it's funny because I always say this to people. So I was watching the Dawn of the Planet of the Apes, and if you haven't watched it, it's a fantastic film. And there's a part in it where Caesar, the talking chimp, or is it talk? I think he's a chimp, isn't he? The talking, or is he an ape? I can't remember now. And he said he's a chimp, isn't he? He's a talking chimp, and his family get kidnapped, and the rest of the chimps and apes and orangutans get kidnapped, and he needs to try and rescue them. So he gets his posse of chimps together, or primates, I should say, and he says to them, "There's no gain without risk." And I was like, listen, the talking chimp said it. There is no game without risk, and I had to risk it. And I'm a single mom as well, so people don't realize, like, I'm a single mother. I've got a little boy who's now 10. So when I went part-time and went back to Edgehill Uni, my little boy was 18 months old, like, I think it was like just over a year old. So but I still did the course full time. I had my mum who helped me look after him. So I would say for 2 years it was a struggle, but I knew then that it would be a struggle, so I was prepared for it. But I was very mindful of how I managed my time. So I knew that as part of the PGCE, I had to teach, I had to do my coursework, I had to be on campus. So I had to really be strict about how I managed my time. But those 2 years were the hardest 2 years ever.
And I presume your entrepreneurial work, it lends itself to managing your time and managing your own use of it as well. So yeah, as you say.
Exactly.
And you talked about things marrying up for you. So have you always known what you wanted to do? Obviously, you went into journalism, or was it just kind of you found yourself amongst happy coincidences kind of thing?
No, I always knew I wanted to be a journalist, but the entrepreneur side that came afterwards, and that was through my time working at the BBC. And I always knew I wanted to give back, but I just didn't know how. So everything else, I would say, kind of, I'm not gonna, because I'm really big on spirituality. So for me, I always meditate, and I talk about the power of the universe, and law of attraction and karma and all these things. And so I knew I had to follow my gut instincts. So always talk, because it's a longer story, but when I got the kind of the sign to go back into education, at first I was just like, all right then, this is weird because I've never thought about that before. But this time I was like, I need to listen to my gut instinct. and go for it. And it was the best decision that I made. You know, when I first decided to go part-time, so many people were like, oh, Ngunan, you're crazy, because I had such a good career working at the BBC, and being a journalist, that's where you want to end up, you know, is the BBC. So many people thought I was crazy, but then I wouldn't have got the World Service job if I wouldn't have gone back to uni to do my PGCE and started my own business. So it literally did just marry itself together.
So take those chances sometimes, yes. Fantastic. Oh, well, thank you very much for speaking to us about all of that, and maybe we'll have some more questions as we go along. But I'm going to pass over to Nick now to introduce our next guest. So thank you very much again.
Thanks, Ngunan. That 10 minutes just flew by. It was so interesting. So thanks, Alex. So I'm delighted to introduce our next panelist, who is Claire Beerjeraz. Claire is currently studying a master's in psychotherapy and counselling here at Edge Hill. Her research examines how arts and creative therapies can heal racial trauma. Alongside her studies, Claire works full-time as a creative children's psychological therapist with YPAS, the Young Persons Advisory Service. Over to you, Claire. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks for having me. And Ngunan, that was really interesting to hear more about you and your experiences with Edge Hill. It's nice to hear that you've gone to Edge Hill as well, which I didn't know for a while. But yeah, as mentioned, my name's Claire, and I'm currently just finishing my master's in psychotherapy and counselling with contemporary creative approaches. And again, like Ngunan mentioned that she didn't have a very linear pathway to getting onto her course, and I would say mine was mostly linear, but there were a little bit of sort of redirection. So I have a background in psychology, and from the get-go, before I even started university, I was studying in Liverpool at different university. I thought I really wanted to do clinical psychology, so it's something I really pursued constantly throughout. And then it got to my final year, and I wanted to apply, but every time I got to the applications for assistant psychology work or exploring sort of the potential doctorates that I'd want to do, it just didn't sit right with me. Something just didn't feel right about it anymore, and I wasn't sure what exactly it was about it, but I just felt really confused, and I didn't know what I was going to do after I graduated. And with psychology, you can do so much. I definitely knew I wanted to work around mental health, but I felt just really conflicted. I felt like my time was running out before I'd have to go back to London, which is where I was originally from. And that was really daunting. So I could really feel the pressure. And then funnily enough, I made a friend in the library who I just really connected with, and we just stayed in contact for a while. And she said to me, I've just been to see a psychotherapist, and I wonder if it's something you'd want to ever pursue as a sort of career, because when I was sitting there with them, it just felt like I was talking to you. And I was like, I don't know, I never thought about it. I had done experience in counselling. I'd worked for Nightline and Childline, but that was just because I enjoyed to do voluntary work. It wasn't because I saw myself as a counsellor at all. And then I saw, as I began to explore and find out more about psychotherapy and counselling and how I could pursue it, there was this brand new course at Edge Hill that was being advertised, and it was an MSc in psychotherapy and counselling with contemporary arts. And I was like, this kind of sounds like it's up my street, because I do freelance work on the side. So I've always done acting and spoken words and other things like that. So I knew I wanted to somehow keep that in my life, and to see a course that was basically combining a career that felt like it really suited me, also with my passion of the arts. I was like, yes, sign me up. And it was a 2-year master's, and it was just everything I could have hoped for and more. One thing that I've really enjoyed about my time at Edge Hill was the different styles of learning that was presented to me. It wasn't me sitting in a lecture hall for hours and hours and just sort of taking in what was being said at me. There was a lot of discussion-based work, and one thing about the course specifically that I was on was that they really focused on the experiential learning of things, which basically meant that I was able to sort of sit in the client's sort of seat and chair and perspective and see what it was like. So we had loads of different therapists from all over the world, from Australia, from South Africa, obviously from in the UK as well, and they were able to teach us the different methodologies of how we can use arts, contemporary arts, as a different medium for communication. One of the biggest surprises as well I found about my time at Edge Hill was how much personal development I would end up experiencing. I feel like the person I was when I first started my course to the person that I am now are completely different, but in a really, really positive way. The course really challenged me to think about my perceptions, my positionality as a person, and also to really, you know, stand up for what I believe in and to pursue creativity, to look at the way I research things and to know that my opinion matters. And it was really, really empowering as well. I found working as a psychological therapist for YPass was one of the jobs that I was able to get because of my time at Edge Hill. Obviously, when I got the job, I hadn't qualified yet, but they were so overwhelmed with my experience and the connections I was able to make with the panel members in the interview that they wanted to tailor the job to suit me, which is a huge, huge compliment. And the only reason I saw that job available was because in one of my lectures that we had around careers and employability for our course, someone showcased this job at the Young Persons Advisory Service. And I thought to myself, I would love to work there. I had been there as a service user myself, so I applied for it, and that is literally the only reason I saw the job was available, and I am working there full time now. It was because of the opportunities that Edge Hill literally brought to me in front of my face, which was great. But I've also had loads of other opportunities through that, especially around my research. I know it was mentioned that I'm using my master's research to look at how we can use creative arts and arts therapies to heal racial trauma. And that's allowed me to be able to present at multiple international conferences. I've had people directly email me to speak about my research, again, which is really, really empowering. And that was because Edge Hill as a university were able to talk to me about my research and write articles and really promote what I was doing. And it felt like I was at an academic institution that was proud of their students and was engaged, and there was something really personal about that. Through that in itself, I was able to be awarded a university scholarship from Edge Hill directly, which is obviously going to help me a lot. And yeah, it was brilliant. It was really, really good. I've obviously also been able to continue my freelance work as well. Another thing which I didn't think would be possible, but being at a uni that is so nurturing in their students, I've really, really been able to sort of feel encouraged to know my worth, and that it is possible to sort of do things like that. I know when it came to first joining the uni, I was really worried because I'm mixed race, and I know that Edge Hill is, generally speaking, a predominantly white institution, and Ormskirk is a predominantly white area, and I was really, really nervous about that because I had some experiences at my old uni where I felt really sort of further marginalised than I already felt when I first came to Liverpool. But what was really shocking was I remember within like the first few weeks of me starting, I got an email asking if I wanted to join a student panel that was for sort of marginalised groups, and they also wanted to help me, and they were talking about the attainment gap and things like that. And I was really taken aback because I thought I was just going to be treated like a number to the uni, because that's what it was like previously. And it was like, wow, this uni is really able to acknowledge sort of the reality of what it's like for students like myself. And it really helped me to feel more safe around campus and walking around, like a lot more safe. And I felt really, really comfortable. And with that, I was able to really take on that learning experience and fully engage and immerse myself, because I wasn't so worried about how I was looking, or if people are looking at me and why they're looking at me, what are they going to say, or what are these people's sorts political views and things like that. Just to be able to walk around campus and know that I feel safe because I'm at a uni that supports me as a person was really reassuring. I know we're doing this panel like during Black History Month, so I think it's also really important to recognize that, you know, my experience as a woman of color has been difficult in education and even searching for my job. I know I was saying that the full-time job at YPass was because I saw it in a careers lecture, but before that I had considered sort of applying for jobs, and especially creative jobs, and I felt really on edge about doing it because I just didn't feel like I was valid enough, because a lot of the industries are predominantly white, and I wasn't sure if I was going to be able to be as easily accepted, despite having the wealth of knowledge and experience that I believe I do have for a lot of other jobs. So yeah, it was nerve-wracking to say the least. But again, because I had support from the uni for that, I had like interview practices and I had my CV checked and things like that. I felt like I could go into. I was like, yeah, I can apply for this. I can do this. Like, it's going to be fine. And I'm not going to have to worry about it. Especially because in the past I'd had work experiences where I experienced so much like racial microaggressions as well. Where I just kind of didn't feel like I could have a voice really in the workplace. And luckily I'm able to experience that now, and I'm able to feel proud of my identity, and definitely my time at Edge Hill facilitated that and catalyzed that so much, which I really am grateful for. So yeah, I'm just going to wrap it up and just say, yeah, so where I am right now, I would say just still working full time at a job that is one of my dream jobs, being able to work with young children and help facilitate the next generation to sort of create a better space for their mental health is great, but also to still be engaged with the university, to do things like this and to give the opportunity to still present and showcase my art and my research is wonderful. So yeah.
Thank you so much, Claire. That was just fascinating, and it's just a real delight to hear about your positive experiences that you've had at Edge Hill, and thank you for giving back there as well, for contributing back through things like this. As with Ngunan, you both seem incredibly busy, incredibly active. How are you coping with studying and working full time and juggling it all?
I would say the most important thing for me has been self-care. Super important. I mean, even when I first joined the uni, one of the first things I did was check the mental health support services around, just so I knew what was available to me. I even like booked in for an appointment just to see what it was like and what could be offered for me. So I think self-care has been the most important thing for me, and also turning back on creative arts and using that was another thing that my course really highlighted, how great creative arts can be to help facilitate well-being. So I know that if I'm feeling down, even if it is just consuming some media, it's still a form of art in some way or the other, or if it's just taking a few minutes aside to just draw or write how I'm feeling, that is what really helps when I'm really busy with things.
Thank you. That's a really useful top tip there. Thank you for that. So I'll hand back over to Alex to introduce our third and final panellist.
Thank you very much. Yes, so our third and final panellist is Jay Chambers. So Jay graduated with a degree in film and television and works as a reggae musician, hip hop artist, poet and lecturer. He regularly plays to live audiences all over the UK, but has also used his degree to work with the BBC, Sky, and Marcus Rashford. So thank you very much for joining us today, Jay. I'll hand over to yourself.
Hey guys, thanks for having me. So my story is a little bit interesting in terms of it's not conventional, much like the other guests who have obviously been great and shared their stories. So I came to Edge Hill in the late 2000s. I studied film and television production, and I was really, really passionate about being a music video director, and it was really great being at Edge Hill and working with tutors like Phil Jackson, who really encouraged me to explore my creativity, but also explore it through the lens of being a black man. Like a lot of my projects were around the idea of race and how I could represent that through music, because Spike Lee was a really big directorial influence on me. So upon graduating, I ended up going to the States and spent a lot of time out there working musically with a guy called Kason Brothers, who's Kerry Crucial Brothers' son. And that's when the music started to come into it. As originally I went out there on a Camp America visa teaching video, and then I kind of ended up doing a bit of music out there. So fast forward to coming back, I then released some music which got picked up by radio, and then I ended up becoming a reggae rap musician, like done an independent tour, played with like Akala, Loki, a few people like that, collaborating with artists like that on my next project, which has been cool. The poetry kind of came into it a little bit later. I started writing poetry. I put out a few poetry pieces exploring just racialized identity within the UK, and just like how to be black and British is to be in a state of duality, based upon the fact that, you know, as we've seen before as people of colour, when black creatives are celebrated, then we're told that we're British, but then as soon as we do something that goes against what was celebrated, that Britishness is stripped, and then we become black people or Jamaicans or Africans, which was really fascinating to me. So I wrote a series of poems on that, which led to me being commissioned by the BBC to write a Black History Month poem that was used to launch their Black History Month celebrations on CBBC last year, which was interesting. Which is also doing the rounds again now. They've started sharing that on social media, which then brought me to the attention of Marcus Rashford, who was working with a community group called Withington Walls, who decided to put together a mural just to kind of commemorate that that's where his hometown was from. And so they wanted me to write a poem that kind of summed up his story of kind of overcoming like the trappings of that area. So I wrote a poem called These Walls, which kind of looked at the walls from two angles. So walls as in like home, and that being where the heart is, and where that's like our symbolic of like protection and warmth and comfort, but then also dealing with walls, i.e. in terms of race or in terms of poverty or in terms of other like social and economic challenges that come from that area. So that went out, that went viral. I think HBO was interested in acquiring the rights for that to use for some reason. Then I ended up getting more into my activism and actually putting my money where my mouth is and just doing a lot more community work. Ended up leading a protest in Manchester for Black Lives Matter last year, which then resulted in me being asked to speak on race publicly. Spoke via BBC, interviewed on CNN, interviewed on Sky News, a few of these places. And my main thing being here is to just kind of say, you know, like, as you can already see through the journey, and I'm trying to keep it brief because I don't want to keep going on, but you know, your journey where you're at right now is just the beginning, and you know, where you're at doesn't necessarily dictate where you ended up. I ended up doing a degree in film and TV, which was great, and it allowed me to really explore my identity, but that was just preparing me for the platform I'm at now, where everything I do is about exploring identity, if that makes sense. So obviously I did that. I've just completed doing another poetry piece with another company that I can't say yet. Other cool things outside of that, I've worked part-time doing some lecturing, keeping up my musicianship as well as recording and touring for the British and Irish Modern Music Institute. I've actually authored a module called The Business and Culture of Hip Hop, which is the first of its kind, incorporating and looking at Black music and the business side of that, and just kind of like looking at how the culture and the history of the music informs the differentiation in terms of business practice, which has led to lots of interesting conversations, got me moving in academic circles and giving talks, which resulted in me creating a company called Black in Manchester, which is going to be a CIC shortly. We're going through the process now, but we do like community workshops. We just hosted one last week talking about ownership of UK hip hop and when is it okay for companies to make money off hip hop and black culture, and what's appreciation versus appropriation and commodification. That's gone pretty well. That's led to us doing talks at Reform Radio, which is a local community station. We're doing a talk at the Royal London College of Psychiatry next week to some black psychiatrists. And so it's all just the different layers of creativity that's us to kind of be where we want it to be. So yeah, that's just a brief overview of what I do. But the main thing is kind of where you're at, and you know, just be open to it. Go to Edge Hill, take those new experiences, it takes you, and just make use of everything. So speak to your careers advisors, and yeah, just enjoy yourselves. And I'm open for any questions that you guys might have.
Fantastic. Thank you for sharing all that, Jay. It's I saw some of your work when you sent those links across, and it really is very impactful stuff. And we'll share some links after as well if anyone else is interested. You talked about where you are is very different to where you started, and I just wondered the themes that the other guys were talking about as well. Did you feel kind of any anxiety over the unknown, not know where you were going next, or did you just kind of surrender to it and find your way as you were going along?
Oh yeah, I think there's a bit of, I don't know, a bit of lack of transparency with that sometimes. Like, of course, I was mad nervous. Like, you know, when you do a degree, particularly for myself, because I was the first person in my family to go to university, and then I'm like, the rest of my family are doing it, which is good. But I felt this immense pressure of kind of, I need to go to university, figure it out, and show that this is kind of the right path and this is how you do this. And then it was only like as my attention started to shift post coming back from America, I was like, actually, it's okay to take this time, take a breather, and see where I want to go. Because, you know, life changes. We make these decisions about where our careers are going to go at 18, but then obviously you're growing whilst you're at university, and your interests do change, and that's completely fine.
Fantastic. And you said about Camp America. I know that a lot of students, that's something they do over the summer, a summer job going away abroad or something like that. But would you recommend that? Did you enjoy the experience? Obviously, it sounds like it started a few things for you.
Yeah, definitely. Like, I got to make lots of connections stateside who I work with musically to this day. It pushes you out of your comfort zone, forces you to try different things, and it's just another opportunity to expand your network. A lot of these camps have good connections to the creatives in those local areas. So mine was in Pennsylvania, but I had good ties to New York. So afterwards I ended up staying in New York for a while and getting into the creative scene there. And so yeah, definitely 100% would recommend.
Fantastic. Well, thank you very much for sharing your story as well, Jay. It's been really interesting, and I'm excited to see everything that comes next as well.
Thank you.
So I'm going to, we've got a few questions that were submitted in advance of the session today. So 1 second. I'll pass over to Nick, who's going to ask the first question that was submitted to us.
Okay, so to the panelists, the first question: what does being a good ally mean to you, and how do you think allyship can be improved in the workplace? Anyone would like to go first? Maybe Ngunan?
Feel free to jump in.
I was going to say Jay can go first.
Okay, so for me, I think being an ally is to understand, you know, cultural differences, and to be able to champion those in spaces even when it's difficult. You know, when we're talking about diversity, inclusion, well, equity, inclusion, and diversity, we need to think about obviously everybody and making sure that everybody is equally represented. So that in the case of talking about people of colour is looking around the room, is asking, does everyone in this room look and sound like me? And if so, why is that? It's also doing the work. Ultimately, there's a lot of kind of reading and unpicking and almost self-reflection to be done as part of the process of us understanding how to better collaborate, work, and just live together. And I think self-reflection is one part of it, and also then championing it in all aspects of your life. So, you know, calling it out where you see it, doing the work, how you following pages to inform yourself, and yeah, just making sure that it's something that you live and breathe.
Yeah, I want to echo what Jay said, because a lot of it as well is to do with listening. And some of the problems that we had back in the day, you know, was people would always question. So there's always that question of, if you experience racism or discrimination and you were telling a friend who was white or who hadn't experienced it, they would always question, you know. And the way I described it to another friend of mine was that, imagine if, you know, she was a woman, and I said, imagine you're in a room and there's two men, and one of the men gives you a look or touches you in a certain way, and you say to your friend who's male, did you see how he looked at me? And he says, oh no, I didn't think there was anything wrong with it. And then you're there trying to explain what that look felt like. And that's what racism is. Sometimes it's not just a name calling, it's a feeling, it's an action that maybe you in the room might not get. So when you've got a friend or a colleague who's saying to you, I think that's racist, and they're trying to tell you why, and you keep on trying to question them, then that's not you trying to understand, that's interrogation. So like Jay said, it's about understanding and, you know, saying things when someone who isn't of colour doesn't have to be in the room for you to still fight it. So yeah.
Thanks, Ngunan. I found that a really useful analogy, actually. Sorry.
Yeah, I was just gonna add. I think obviously you agree with what Ngunan and Jay are saying as well, and I think also similarly around your positionality, and maybe think about how you can amplify the voices around you who aren't being heard. Maybe if you as a person, you know, people are more likely to listen to you as a person, maybe question why that is, or if you experience that discomfort when people are relaying facts of British history, to be honest with you, that happens quite often when I'm presenting around my research, and maybe question that discomfort, where is that coming from and why are you experiencing that as well.
Thank you, Claire. That's great. So one of the other questions we had was, so the Edgehill Book Club is currently reading The Underground Railroad by Colson Whitehead. And they asked, are there any other books that you would recommend to read that perhaps change your life or outlook, and you recommend to others? I think you all share a crazy thread between you, so I can't remember the last time I finished a book, but yeah, between yourselves, is there anything you'd recommend?
I think for me, oh sorry, go.
No, go on, Jay.
No, you go ahead, it's fine. I'll jump in after.
No, mine was more looking at foreign authors, as well as the, you know, the American and UK books, because I think sometimes a lot of people, that's what they're drawn towards, is American and UK history. And one of my mentors and also old managers, she really got me into reading foreign authors to fully understand history. So things like White Tiger, 1,000 Splendid Suns, The Kite Runner, who else? The Purple Hibiscus. So there's loads of African and Asian artists that when you actually, I love reading. So when you read a lot of these books, there's so much history in there that when you look at politics and certain decisions, you think, okay, now that makes sense. Now that relationship makes sense. So there's so much that goes on in the world that we miss, but a lot of these authors have cleverly put them into their book. So I'm really big on reading African, Arab, and Asian authors.
Cool. I'd suggest reading British by Afua Hirsch as an English book. That's really, really interesting. It unpacks the kind of juxtapositions that Black British people find themselves in regarding their British identity. I think that's a really interesting book to read. Also, what's another book? Black Africa by Sheikh Anta Diop is a really good book as well. And I do have a little list, so I'm happy to just send it over to Alex or whoever, and then you can share that amongst the students.
Yeah, please do. We'll share it in the follow-up email. That would be fantastic. Claire, do you have any you'd like to share? Or
Yeah. So I would say there's a book by Miranda Kaufman, and it's called Black Tuesday: The Untold Story. I think a lot of Black British history is sort of erased or you're not taught about in school. So it's a really interesting book. Black and British: A Forgotten History. That's by David Olusoga. I would recommend that. But also any book by sort of artists like Zadie Smith. She's someone who I really like as an author because she has a lot of diverse and multicultural writing. There's a lot of characters that she uses that I'm like, oh, I can relate to that. And they talk about sort of real life issues. And also maybe I'm slightly biased because she also uses London as like a lot of her like settings. But yeah, I'd recommend that as well.
Thank you, that's great. I appreciate we're coming towards the end of our time. So could I ask, what would each of you say is a key piece of advice be to other Black, Asian and minority ethnic Edge Hill students or recent graduates?
I think for me, it's the old cliche. Definitely, Daniel asked me a question then about mentorship. Definitely get yourself mentors, unofficial, official mentors, anyone that can support your development. And don't be hard on yourself. Look after your mental health, and just don't think you're going crazy when you are experiencing any kind of discrimination. And just do your research and develop yourself. And yeah, that's my thing. But definitely look after your mental health and well-being in every way, shape, or form.
I think my advice would be to be unapologetically Black or yourself or whatever ethnicity that you identify in. I think a lot of times when we're in really white spaces like education or like the music industry or the creative industry in general, there's a tendency to code switch. There's a tendency to play down aspects of your personality. And, you know, earlier on in my career, I did that. And the second I was just unapologetically myself, people sought me out for that perspective and for that message. So my thing would be to not water down who you are, just be who you are and trust in the process. As cliche as that sounds.
Echoing similarly what both have said, I would say know your worth, and you know yourself better than anybody else. So don't let anyone sort of question your truth, your passions, and things that you believe in. I think it's important to have discussions around sort of issues and beliefs and things like that, but don't let anyone sort of shake that. I think that's really, really important. And also, I guess if you're looking at studying at different universities or you're looking at studying at Edge Hill, take advantage of what they can offer to you and don't be afraid to make use of those resources. Not only are you paying tuition fees for it, but they have it there provided for you, and believe in yourself more than anyone else does, because self-love and self-confidence is just as important.
That's wonderful to hear. I feel like I want to go out the room and change the world now. As cliche as that sounds as well. So fantastic. Thank you very much for sharing those insights. And we could easily be sat here another hour with the questions we had submitted in advance and the things that have been coming through the chat. So thank you very much for taking the time to join us and share your insights. And I've loved being a part of this panel, and I'm glad I could be here with you and hear what you had to say. I'm going to hand over to Nick to just give a quick kind of closure of what we do at the careers team so that you can take advantage of us going into the future. But otherwise, thank you very much to our panelists. And yeah, I hope our audience has enjoyed it too. Thank you for joining us if you've tuned in or if you're watching back virtually. As said, we will follow this session with the slides that we've shared and the resources that we've got as well.
Thanks, Alex, and many thanks to our amazing panellists and to all of you for your questions this afternoon. We just wanted to conclude with a quick reminder of the support available from Careers for our current students and graduates within 3 years of finishing their studies at Edge Hill. Careers are based in Catalyst and appointments face-to-face, via Teams or over the phone, whichever format suits you best. These appointments can be used to discuss options with your degree subject, looking for part-time or graduate work, as well as volunteering. We also offer support with the application process for employment, as Claire mentioned, thank you Claire, and further support, interview advice and much more. The team also run workshops and events throughout the year, such as workshops on a variety of topics, including using LinkedIn, CVs and postgraduate study. We also organise careers fairs and employer presentations. If you would like a CV or application checked, send it over to us using our Ask a Question service, and we will give you constructive feedback on how to improve it to help you achieve your goal. In addition, students can achieve recognition through awards programmes, including the Extra Edge programme and the annual Careers Awards, which celebrate student successes. To find out more, go to our Careers website. I'll now hand over to Alex, who will tell you more about the support he offers in his role as Widening Participation Officer.
Thank you very much, Nick. Yeah, so just to cover a little bit about what I do in the team, I'm an employment advisor within Careers, specifically dealing with helping with widening participation work that we do. So I work with groups identified in our access and participation plans, so including Black, Asian and minority ethnic groups. And I'm here to give an extra in-depth support in careers related matters. So if you ever need any support, be it looking for jobs, handing in an application, finding those applications in the first place, then by all means get in touch with Careers, go and speak to a careers advisor or whatever else. But if you need to sit down and go through it together, I'll be there to come and chat to you about it. Throughout the year, I'll be proactive. I'll be contacting you with emails saying, have you seen this opportunity, or have you seen this company that's doing a positive action event? For example, I know Yorkshire Police was doing some to try and get women into the workforce, and there was also another one for Black, Asian, minority ethnic groups. So sharing things like that to make sure you know about them. I'll be in touch throughout the year, as well as getting involved in other events like this. Fantastic, yeah. So we'll share these resources with you after as well, but we do have a few links that we can share with you. We've got a couple of Padlets, which are like virtual notice boards. The insight and opportunities with graduate employers one's really good. It's events that are run by externals that give you an insight into their company, and they might talk about different graduate jobs that they've got coming up as well. But again, they do a lot of positive action events that are promoted on those Padlets as well. And 1,000 Black interns or 10,000 Black interns is a very valuable opportunity. Again, we'll share that link to you. Applications that are open until 7th of November. Otherwise, let me try and find my list and see if I've missed anything else. No, I think we're good, are we, Nick?
Yep,
thanks once again.
Perfect.
Fantastic. Thank you again to everyone that's joined us tonight. Enjoy the rest of your evenings, and yeah, we'll speak to you soon. We're here if you need us.
Thanks, everyone.